I just want to remind you before it starts to always consult a physician before making any changes to your healthcare plan. And I'd like to remind you that nothing in this video, nothing you hear on the Juicebox podcast or read on ardensday.com constitutes medical advice of any kind. The supporting documents and social media for the podcasts, this video, and the blog are also not to be considered as advice. Please read this disclaimer before starting to view this episode. I'll just go grocery shopping and build like an extra, 15 minutes in. But that wasn't the case because everybody moved so slowly, which I understood, through the store. But then the checkout lines were slower. I had something covering my face, not like a paper mask, but just something which overheated me at some point. And I was like, that's odd. And it was unpleasant, to say the least. So I'm wondering, I didn't push this out as much as I did last time, and I was kind of interested to see who would come back and who wouldn't. And I'm going to pop up on Facebook now too and let people know we're here.
Right, Hole.
Has anyone's life changed greatly in the last week? I think I'm noticing some things. I think I'm noticing some weird things. How about anybody's blood sugars get better? Did anybody make any changes? Mike, can you tell me about it?
Yeah, so I need to make some basal changes, but
Right.
I've been more proactive in knocking down as I'm seeing like 140s, 150s. I've been, I'm on loop, so I've been adding carbs or going back to the carb entry that I took for the meal and adding more to that. And I've seen a big difference in that.
Okay. That's excellent.
I'm actually coming down from a low right now because I got a little bowl for my walk. So I'm having some peanut butter.
I'm having trouble. Arden's working out a lot more lately. And so now it's not sports. It's not like at a really set time. It's like she gets her homework done and she's like, all right, now I'll work out. And I'm having trouble reminding her that she's got to, set a temp basal before she works out. Last night it worked out for us because she changed a pump before she worked out. And so we realized, she won't have as much impact from her insulin for a little while anyway. That actually was neat. She was like 180 coming out of dinner and she went right to work out. And I was like, ooh, the working out will bring her down when the insulin won't. And that actually worked out pretty well. Just kind of thinking about ways to, I don't want to say cheat, but you know what I'm saying? Like you use what's happening in your life as a way to kind of manipulate things. I think that's kind of, I find that pretty important. So there are people messaging me on Facebook. Is there a meeting today? How many times do I, hold on. How do I get a link for this? Let's figure that out. Has anybody been out like in the world at all? Caitlin? Anything new? Hold on. Caitlin, I can't hear you. Can anybody hear Caitlin besides me? I can't hear you.
I've had to go to the pharmacy to get prescriptions. I noticed they finally put up the plexiglass shields for those poor people, which was
right.
Nice.
I've seen that too. They're starting to put those things around the cashiers, and everybody's like, it's we're all suddenly in a gas station in a bad part of town at 2:00 in the morning is what it feels like. Let me see if I can find this link to give to somebody here. So what I'm noticing.
I was out last Thursday.
Who's talking? Hey, what's up?
I was out last Thursday, and there were just strange things missing.
You're breaking up, Alan. I'm sorry. You're missing. You were not seeing stuff like on the shelves that were odd.
Yeah, it was just odd. In the TV dinner section, the cheap TV dinners, there was a whole stack of one particular kind, and all the rest of them were gone. And that pretty much told me what people didn't like. And the same thing in the Campbell's chunky soup area. There were a couple of types that there was just all kinds of soup there, but
Right.
nothing else. The whole section was pretty.
My wife shops like that. If things are missing, she assumes they're good because a lot of people bought them. I don't subscribe to that idea, but she 100% does.
Yeah. So I'm in San Diego, and our school district stopped, I think, the 16th. That's kind of when they announced around here. And there was definitely a run on the grocery stores. And
Right.
the only frozen vegetables that were left were the Brussels sprouts.
So here's what I'm wondering if anybody else has noticed this. Do we all know what virtue signaling is? Like that idea of like you say something on Facebook that seems super obvious to prove to everybody you know the right thing to do in the world. Or, you know, you say it out loud, or someone says something that's a little not politically correct and you sort of correct them. There's a line of psychological thought that is that you're not as interested as correcting people as you are making sure everyone else knows you understand the right way to do something. So like correcting people. Justin, you're making a face. You know what I'm talking about here? Huh. Try again, Justin. Can you unmute?
Oh, there we
There
go.
you go.
Oh yeah, I live in a you live on the East Coast. I live in the Midwest where everyone here believes we're better than everywhere else, and
Okay.
and so it's nothing but virtue constantly.
Now, is anyone noticing it's dying down right now? Like there are no word police all of a sudden. Nobody's telling you Bernie Sanders or this guy or that guy's the best person for the world. Like suddenly, no, everyone's just like, yo, shit, am I going to die? Like that's all anybody is thinking about right now. It's really, it's super interesting to see how a change in reality 100% refocuses everybody. And I noticed on the way, you know, I'm at the grocery store just today. I'm wearing gloves. I've got my face covered. You know, everybody's, you know, everything's a little dystopian and weird. And I realized that all of the little adjustments that they make to grocery shopping to make it convenient are gone now. Like they're all just gone. Like the idea that we can put my groceries up on the belt while yours, Tina, are being rung up. You know what I mean? Like that, I like the things that speed stuff up. Or I really miss talking to people at the grocery store. I do some of my like, I love to like just notice what other people are doing and say something. And then I like to see like which of those people are like annoyed by it and which of them are interested in talking. Like I don't even care about the interaction as much as I care about like watching them have the interaction sometimes. That's completely gone. All I could think when I was shopping is I should just order all this stuff online. Like, would I ever want to come back here again? And I realize that's unreasonable. I'm going to have to go back. But everybody's like shifted. And if you're covering your face, the people who aren't covering your face are looking at you with two looks on their face. It's, oh shit, should I be covering my face too? Or the second one, that guy's sick. Like that's totally how, like they're either convinced that you're sick. I see a couple of people that were proudly not following any of the rules too. Sort of like, what is going on? Sort of like, you know, like this isn't going to get me. But there were some older people. There were some people who were clearly in risk categories. Oh, Express Scripts wants to send an order. Let me just hang up on them very quick. Actually, you know what? You people understand this better than anybody. Hey, Express Scripts, what's up? It's just going to be like a recorded message that says, we have orders for you to call. Not even doing that. Anyway, there were some people that were in some clearly risk categories, if you know what I'm saying, and they did not seem like they understood that they were in a risk category. There's one guy was bounding around, and he was like about 400 pounds, and I'm like, brother, listen, you're the one. You don't want to get sick, you know? Like cover your face, do something. But I don't know. It's a very, even driving, has anyone noticed like everybody's just sort of like mellow when they're driving? It's all very strange. Leah, are you going to have a stroke? Let's talk to you for a second. Hi.
What's up? Hi.
Was I boring or is your head heavy? What was going on there?
No, I don't drive, so I don't relate.
Does anyone live in a metropolis like in Manhattan or like
I
somewhere
live in
like
Brooklyn, so
Brooklyn? Wyatt, what are you doing? You're in Canada, man. We know where you're at. Calm down. You're in Brooklyn, so how is it there? Is it weird?
pretty bad. Yeah,
What's the
everyone's
strangest thing you've noticed?
mm, just that everyone's pretty chill about wearing masks.
Oh,
Everyone's very used to it by now.
it's like not a thing.
No,
I,
yeah, it's
I'm
completely normal.
I'm super sad about it. Like I like let somebody go by me in a cart, and her eyes said to me like thank you, and I wanted to smile back at her, and instead I found myself like doing this, and then I'm like, that's not the right signal for you're welcome. That's like, hey, you look nice in those jeans. And like, so I was like, this is all wrong. I have to rethink all of my facial movements.
Yeah.
Everything was really like, I don't like I'm at this weird spot where I know this is important right now. Don't get me, Dr. Nadelman's coming back on the show. We're going to record tonight, and it's going to go up again tonight. And he's going to talk about how things have progressed in just a couple of weeks since he's been on and how they've changed. And I'm not saying they shouldn't be. I think this is really important. I think what we're doing is incredibly important. But this can't be forever. Like, if this is forever, then like, I don't know.
A weird new normal, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe the new people coming in, you know what I mean? Like 5-year-olds, you'd be like, yeah, that's life. I get it. Right. But I want to I don't know. Like, I want to see somebody do something. Here's what I want. I want to watch a woman take way too long pulling something off the shelf in the grocery store, see her husband over his shoulder, making a face like, oh my God, please get that quicker and put it in the cart. I've been living with you for 25 years. Why do you shop so slow? And I want to walk past him and just put my hand on his shoulder and comfort him for a half of a second. That's all I want. Because you don't realize in those moments, the guy will look back at you. I'm sure you ladies do it too, to each other, like while men are doing stupid shit. But he looks back at you like, I mean, I love her and we've got kids. I don't know what to do. I'm stuck here, I guess. And I like that whole thing. And I don't like that it's gone. And the being stuck inside part, that I don't mind as much. But I really do want to be able to see other people. So, all right. Mike had some good success with his blood sugar since last week. Did anybody else make a change that helped them? Wyatt?
Sorry, Scott, it's Gina.
Hey, Gina, go ahead. Wyatt's next then.
So because I don't have a CGM and I'm not really good at doing my testing, but I did just now go through my meter and I wrote down my numbers and I tried to make a graph and it's really bad.
No, it's not.
But it's okay. I mean, I'm okay with it because that's just what it is. And just a little background, just so you have an idea, I don't live a 9-to-5 kind of job, kind of schedule. My schedule is I clean at night. I work cleaning floors in grocery stores and places like that. And it's been really hectic with, of course, everything going on and just stuff. So this is my graph.
Oh, so you did what we talked about last week. Gina, this is
right.
As a person who never did their homework in school, I'm just stunned that you did it. Okay, so you're bouncing up and down.
Right, and the only problem is, of course, I didn't put on there necessarily the times. The testing is not like, it's not 4 tests a day at specific times and this and that and all that.
It's just sort of what you saw.
It's just it's super random. And as my endo tells me, the best thing for a diabetic is to be the same. Eat the same, get up the same, go to bed the same, exercise the same, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, my life is never, ever, ever the same. I'm not saying that it should be either. I don't agree with his thinking, but it's just
Gina, you're getting a CGM. That's your hope, right?
My hope is to get one next month. In May.
All right, so tell me on your chart here. Hold it back up again.
Okay.
Tell me on your chart here, like the higher high. There's 3 of them that are higher than everywhere else. How high? What's that number?
Okay, that's like this last night when I went to bed.
Yeah.
Which actually I went to bed at 6:30 this morning.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't last night. It was early this morning. But and I wasn't even working. I was just laying here watching TV all night. But it was when I went to bed. It was 308. Okay. And then
did you put insulin in?
I took a correction for that.
Right. And then where'd you end up at the next time?
That's the crazy thing. 300.
Well, that's not crazy.
So and I'm like, okay, but my set is, I'm not at the end of my set. Now, the night before, it was, I think Okay, it was 213 the night before. It was 213.
Okay.
I took 1 unit of correction. The correction was like 2 something,
Right.
2.6 or whatever. I only took 1 unit, and it dropped it while I was sleeping all the way from 213 down to 108.
Yeah, Gina, it's interesting talking to you because it's like you're talking to you is like speaking to a parent of a kid who's only had it for like a year, and it's
Right,
because
except
you don't.
I
It's
went
because you don't have the
7 years.
CGM. Well, that's okay. So listen, tell me this. This is a lot to pick through, but you guys can. I'll let you look into my brain on this because that's a weird graph that I don't think anybody would look at and go, "We can make sense of that,"
Yeah.
but we can get closer, right? So, do you have one basal rate throughout the day, or do you have a bunch of them?
Yes.
One.
One
What is it?
0.925.
Okay. Now, Gina, I'm sorry. How much do you weigh?
160.
What's your A1C?
It was 7.7, but based on that graph, you can see that's a lie.
Doesn't
I mean,
matter. You
not
need more
good.
basal. I don't know how much more, but I think that's your first step, right? Because if you made me guess your basal rate, I'd put you more at like 1.5 an hour, and that'd be a flat out guess. But because your A1C is, in my opinion, 2 points higher than you want it to be, there's room in there. And the bouncing, that's a different thing. You could be
Okay.
pre-bolusing poorly. You could be counting your carbs poorly. Like there's a lot going on there. But what I'm saying is for now, just push your basal up a little bit.
Okay.
And then do it again, what you did there with that graph. And do it, and then once you see that for 12 hours, say you go from 0.9 to 1, and 12 hours from now, your highs aren't quite so high. And you're trying to get the top and the bottom to come closer to the middle, right?
Right.
Then you can keep doing that. Then when you have less of the bouncing, then I'm going to say, because you are pre-bolusing, right?
I try to pre-bolus. I'm doing better with it now because
Good.
I'm eating at home. When
Right.
I eat out, I'm scared to pre-bolus because my crazy thinking is,
Tina,
what
if
if
that was my
I
kid's
get-
graph, I'd be scared to pre-bolus too. Don't you worry,
Yeah.
okay?
Well, it's not
So-
even that. I'm afraid that what if I'm going to go eat and maybe they don't have what I'm thinking I'm going to eat. And when I go
Right.
out, like because I'm working in between jobs, I may stop in a
I understand.
drive-through. And so it's sometimes a challenge.
I think for now, just a little more basal, do what you did again and keep doing that. Work on your pre-bolusing and, but you can't just start throwing like all the tools at the wall without
Right.
having any context at all, right? So just a little
Right.
more basal. It might not be, it very well might not be 1.5 units. I'm not saying that. It could end up being a unit. It could be 1.05. Like, I don't know. But start nudging it up like that. And just see if you can't get that happening. Because then your boluses will be more effective if your basal's right. You won't need to pre-bolus as long if your basal's right. And then you can start seeing your spikes and thinking, all right, this just was not enough insulin for this meal. And then you can start work. So I would do basal, pre-bolus, and then understanding the impact of the food better versus how much insulin you're using. I think those are your 3 things to do in that order. That make sense?
Do you? Yes, it does. And so my question is, do you, like even with Arden, for example, like when she was playing softball and things like that, did you have different, her basal rate different for different times of the day? Because I know I think most pumps now can change that, but like, here's my problem. I don't work every day.
Right.
So if I have my basal rate set to change because I'm working, the next day, if I keep it at that rate, it's gonna be, no, let me say, when I'm off, if I have it set to a certain for when I'm working, it's going to run high. And then it's, or if I set it for, it's just, that part can be confusing. And I think that's the hardest part for me is to try to get that all figured out.
So
but I think the CGM is what's necessary, really.
Yeah. I think
It's
too, it's funny. Jenny and I recorded this morning and I said to her again that, the really interesting thing about managing insulin is that people genuinely want rules, and they sort of exist, but they don't really. They're not concrete rules, right? Like, so everyone wants to know it's this much, this long, this soon, this late. Like, it just doesn't work that way. So I think if you're bouncing around like this, you're missing with your meal boluses, right?
Yeah,
so you're jumping up high. It doesn't sound like you're falling without a correction. So it stands to reason that some of that correction insulin in the original bolus would stop the spike from being so high. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Right?
It does make sense.
Yeah, give me 1 sec, because everybody that is going to be here seems to be here, and then we're going to move on to somebody else. Nothing in this is medical advice. I'm not a doctor. I barely got through high school. If you're listening to me for your health, really, you should be seeing a psychiatrist, not this. Okay, so Justin, did you want to talk?
Oh, I just when she put up her handmade graph, my brain went into diagnosis mode, and then I went, nope, I can't. I don't have enough info there. So
There's not enough info there.
I had to pull it. I had to pull it back.
Yeah, so anyway, hold on. Alan, can you talk while you're driving?
Yeah.
All right. So how's your daughter doing? I've been working on Alan's daughter's loop settings a little bit.
Yeah. Well, she's still eating everything, so she's kind of killing me. Like this morning, she had waffles, and I did lower her carb ratio.
Right.
Again, I think yesterday I said it the day before. I went up 2. I went back down 1 because it really didn't move.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't too bad, but I think in the afternoon I need to bump up her basal because she kind of came down good and then started drifting back up high on me.
Right.
So,
yeah, there was that one day. So I don't know if this is true, and I'm setting something here. Well, I'm sorry for looking down. I don't know if this is true, but I see this a lot, and so I thought it was worth bringing up to you, and I think it pertains to everybody else, and it's not super personal, so I don't think you'll mind. When I talk to people like privately, like you and I did,
mm-hmm.
I usually see the 24 hours later, I'm like, yeah, that's what I want. And then the 24 hours after that, it sort of goes back again. And so there's something, it's not just the information. I think it's knowing when to use the information. And I think that's what takes time. And so I think your settings are probably pretty close. And I know she eats like a lot of carby stuff, but it just she needs more insulin in those situations, I think.
Yeah, and it was nuts because the first day when we switched the duration, you could see like she was just tanking from the meal. So
yeah.
And the values that we were giving her for stuff that we kind of normally eat,
mm-hmm.
It was a lot more insulin than what we were used to seeing. But she was high before, so I'm like, maybe she needs more insulin. But it was just too much, and now I just need to find that little happy medium.
No, I think you're pretty close. I also think that one setting we changed, it may not be right still. Maybe it's shorter or a little longer. Like you could try moving that 15 minutes in either direction and see what that does too. Just to see what happens. And the other thing I would think, how much does she weigh? You told me and I forget.
She's
like 70?
72-ish or something like that, I think.
I wonder if her insulin sensitivity shouldn't be like a touch stronger too.
Well, that was before you and I started talking. Everybody on the Loop group or whatever, they kept telling me to make it weaker to get that roller coaster effect out.
Right.
But every time I kept making it stronger, she was high all the time. So I'm like, this has got to be wrong. She needs more insulin. And I started making it, more aggressive. And then it turned into it was like jagged up and downs. So.
Okay.
I think it's close. I just got to tweak it a little more, but to get her to eat something, the same thing a couple times she's just at that age right now where,
you can't pay her.
Dude, I already owe her a trip to Hawaii. So,
so funny. I have, you guys, did you guys hear Julia on the other week? She's, no, she's, she was in a drive-through line a little while ago trying to get swabbed for Corona. So I said to her, I was like, I hope you don't have it, but if you do, I'd like to see you back on the show. And my wife is literally texting me now that she has a 99-degree fever and she felt a little achy while she was putting the groceries away. So we'll all be gone soon. It won't matter. So
wonderful.
I'm interested to hear what Adam says tonight about it. Also, do you guys remember the first T1 guy that had on Twitter that got Corona weeks and weeks ago? And then somebody retweeted him and he's got 10,000 Twitter followers now. I'm recording with him tomorrow night too. So we'll figure out, he's well past it. So we'll find out how it went for him.
We actually have a friend that we met on the beach that was a type 1, and she has the corona right now, and she was having some Riley Link issues yesterday. She reached out to me, and when she FaceTimed me, I thought she was going to be a mess, and she didn't even look like she was sick.
Yeah. It's
crazy.
I mean, and I've
It's
seen
crazy.
people who are really knocked over by it too. So I guess there's a
Yeah.
lot of varying things. And now Adam wants to go. Why am I so popular all of a sudden? Adam wants to do earlier. Then we were going to do 7. No, apparently we're doing 5:30. Cool. Brittany, Jenny and I answered one of your questions when we were recording today. So we're here at some point in the future. Are you okay? Is there an earthquake there, Brittany? I can't hear you. I'm so sorry. Is your mic not on? What is happening right now? All right. Brittany, you all right? Brittany, it's okay.
Hello?
Hey.
Hello?
Hi.
Yes.
I was saying Jenny and I answered one of your questions on we did some recording today, so you'll hear it in a couple of weeks probably somewhere.
Oh, that's exciting. Thank you.
Yeah. It wasn't that exciting, but we had it fun. We were laughing and everything. We were having a good time. Tina, is your son okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
He hasn't tried to pay a girl out of the back of a penny saver or anything like that since last week. Is really what I was asking.
No, I haven't looked at his search bar lately, so I don't know.
Okay. So it was really nice. Alan and a number of people sent me articles after last week, and they were like, so apparently this is a problem. And you should know that it's a big deal. And apparently a lot of times these people check in and, throw up porn and other unmentionable things into these Zoom meetings. So I took some precautions that the articles suggested. So thank you very much to everybody. Jessica, what are you doing? Are you at work pretending you're not on a video chat with other people? Okay, so you don't want me to talk to you?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure. Ask a question.
I'm nervous.
That's okay.
Sometime between 12 and 7, just about every night, my low alarm goes off. And if you can see that right in there.
Is that the on the left side, the low?
It's right in there.
Okay, what's low? What's your alarm set at?
70
Okay.
at night. And so I never get to sleep all night. I've tried decreasing my basal. So what I'm wondering is, should I decrease it more between like 1 and 6? Or I don't know if I'm not.
Show me the loop again, the where it dipped down. So were you high and then you corrected and got low?
I was high and I corrected, but sometimes that's the problem and sometimes it's not.
Right.
If I eat dinner at 6 versus eating at 9, it makes a difference. But I just never sleep all night, and I wake up, I'll drink some juice.
Yeah.
And then
you get up and your blood sugar's high the next day usually?
No, it doesn't go real high. I stay real steady in the mornings. My A1C is like 5.7.
Yeah. I would think then if you're not getting high after the juice, then definitely overnight you probably have more basal than you need. It happens every night.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I think you could decrease it throughout that time. And maybe if you're going to do it for hours at a time, it might not need to be that much. But just remember that if you're falling at 1 a.m. constantly, you can't shut it off at 1 a.m. It's got to be sooner than that.
Yeah. Is it okay to have a basal rate for only like say 4 hours, or you can have as many as you want?
I mean, if you're just getting low in that time, then make it for that time. Also, remember when it comes back on, like if you get up at 7 a.m., you might want it to come back on at 6:30 to the higher number, so that you don't wake up in a deficit for what you need while you're awake.
I love my endocrinologist, but he doesn't like me messing with my settings.
Yeah.
But I do it anyway.
Well, then tell him to come to your house and give you juice while you're sleeping, so you don't have to wake up and you won't care, right?
I know.
So,
he's super nice.
Yeah, I'm nice, but you never hear anybody say it. So that isn't helping you that he's nice, Prudence, but I like that he is. Also, if you don't get high, you won't have to correct before you go to bed. So,
Well, that's my other problem is
is I don't have rolling heels. I have spikes. I do spikes all the time. Somehow I'm not administering my bolus correctly.
So do you pre-bolus your meals at all? Do you give insulin before you eat?
I do. It's easier when I'm at home all this time because,
Sure.
like the other lady said, I'm afraid to allot out because what if I have to wait a long time for my meal, or what if they don't have what I ordered, or I had one instance where I pre-bolused and I got double errors down before they ever got my meal, and ever since then it scared me.
Yeah, I would say that in that situation, I would like you to I guess I would like you to pre-bolus something, but not all of it then. Right? So if, there's an amount of insulin everybody
I'm braver to do that. I generally do
give yourself
that.
a little bit. And the other thing too is if you are spiking and staying high and then having to correct, I would assume that part of that correction, or maybe all of it, belonged in the initial bolus. So maybe you counted the carbs correctly, but this food is impacting you differently than other carbs do.
Well, it's mostly when I eat like a hamburger and French fries, or hot, potatoes, or
Protein,
white things. Or
have you listened to the fat and protein episode?
I have. I just can't seem to get it.
No. Well, I think a little pre-bolus, a little more insulin up front, and maybe an extended bolus with that grease, or an extended bolus that goes out over 3 or 4 hours after that meal would probably at least help you, stop like peaking and maybe just turn it into a curve.
The day we were leaving for Atlanta, my blood sugar was 150, and I made myself a sandwich, and I bolused for the sandwich and everything, and I just waited because I wanted to see. And an hour and a half later, it had not moved.
Right. Yeah. And that's coming out of what situation? Just the
I
one was.
I had not eaten anything all day. I made myself a sandwich to eat on the road.
Any chance you were dehydrated? Like, was it in the morning? You hadn't drank overnight anything?
Yeah. Does that
could have something to do with it too. Insulin doesn't work very well when you're dehydrated.
Oh, interesting.
Get up in the morning, bang down a glass of water, everything will change.
I never drink.
Wow. Yeah,
okay,
give it a shot.
I'll try that.
All right, cool.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm just sitting here in North Carolina making masks for.
Thank you. Send one, please. I had a scarf around my face in the grocery store. I almost passed out. I'm way too fat to be overheating while I'm grocery shopping. Hold on a second. Sapna, are you running away from New Jersey? What's going on?
I wanted to take a walk, but it didn't work out.
It didn't work out? Oh, because other people showed up.
Yeah, I guess.
Nice.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Sapna is a great CDE who really cares about the people that come to her practice. So that's what a great CDE looks like.
You're
they're out for
great,
a while.
Scott.
What's that?
I'm not as I'm trying to be one. Still a pharmacist, so.
You care, which is a big leap over quite a lot of other people. Enough to get people together privately and talk to them. That is all very cool.
Thanks.
All right. Last time somebody told me how I can go from one grouping of faces to another, and I have totally forgot that. So hold on a second. There's so many different views. I'll be, by the time we can all see each other again, I'll be able to know how to do this. Kenny, you want to talk?
No, I'm just saying the buttons at the top right.
The top right?
Dots. Gallery view and speaker view.
Yeah, but how do I get to the other grouping? There used to be arrows.
Oh, yeah. Multiple pages.
All right, whatever. What's that?
When you move your mouse, there should be arrows on the sides of your screen.
All right. Oh, okay. Thank you.
Oh, I see it, yeah.
Jenny, I got some really great feedback about your episodes today.
Uh-oh. Good feedback, he said?
Yeah. Well, like you should. All the feedback was good, but yeah. Are you going to come back on and talk about loops some more?
Yeah, man.
Nice. Okay. Did anybody hear? That's Kenny. That fox in the loop house. It feels weird, right? He has a face and everything.
Thanks, Kenny.
Did it help anybody, Justin?
Well, he helped me with a little. I was setting up Android APS, and he helped me with a couple little things for just
nice.
In like Reg's chat.
Cool. Was that you, John? Was somebody? I heard somebody say I have a question. Just go ahead and talk.
Yeah, that was me, but I didn't want to interrupt Justin.
No, go ahead, please.
Oh,
Justin has nothing to say.
How's it going, everybody? I was just curious, like for both Scott and the group, do people sometimes find it, I guess, not really offensive, but I know it's sometimes a touchy subject when, you start trying to talk about like food choices and nutrition more so than insulin? Is that kind of a hot button topic for a lot of folks? I mean, it just seems like there's a lot of discussion around insulin and insulin timing, which are all super important. But how often do people spend, and how much time do they spend around their, selections of when and what they're eating, and how sometimes that'll affect things? And like, Gina, when she was talking about earlier, I was curious if she's a shift worker because, a lot of times if you're a shift worker and have to work at night, some of the insulin resistance that is derived from like, cortisol release and physiologic insulin resistance can play a huge portion of that as well, along with like food timing and insulin.
Yeah. John, I think you do a good job in, I know how John feels, and he wishes we were all eating better, which I think is very cool. And he does a really good job of bringing that point up with people in a way that I don't think offends people the way I've seen it be offensive in other places online. So when you do it in my group, I think it's very well done, first of all. And I think it's a completely valid conversation. I just don't know enough about nutrition to talk to people about it, other than to say that processed foods are difficult to manage with, talking about a lot of fat and things like that, drawing out high blood sugars. That's obviously why a lot of these spikes happen, or why they're worse. But it's not my space. So I don't do a lot. In my part, I want you all to understand how to use insulin, and then you can go use it however you want to. But yeah, I mean, Gina, John's probably 100% right. Like, look at what you're eating too. Like, see if you get less spikes with, and for all of you, more natural foods, the stuff that's not prepackaged. I know there are some things that come prepackaged that just rock Arden, and they can look like the same food as things that don't. If I buy, a certain kind of rice and make it in a steamer, it's easy on her. If I were to buy a prepackaged like thing that, you add some water and butter and all of a sudden you have a rice dish with, broccoli in it, that's going to run her over. So it is always totally worth paying attention to. John, is there any news? How come the FAA is not letting you guys fly? What's going on?
Well, yeah, there's quite a bit of information on that. I don't want to run away with things here, but everything's been submitted. They're all reviewing it. There's 10 of us total that have fell under the most, I guess, the closest look. And basically, the FAA took all of our CGM, HbA1cs, endocrinology reports, our full medical records, and sent them to a medical consultation service, and then had them review the CGM data, because the FAA flight physicians don't really know what they're looking at. Right. And out of the 10 of us, they quote unquote saw no issues of concern, and complying with all the protocols that we had sent in. And through that review process, that we all sent our stuff in November 20th of last year. And until the recent coronavirus, we were literally about a week away from having those final approvals. And with this current issue, they've been tasked with other things. But we're hoping to see something as far as the first of the medicals released for commercial aviation by the end of April, or rather mid part of May, if everything holds.
Yeah, good luck, man. I know it looked like it was really rolling along, and then all of a sudden, and Caitlin, you're in the same boat, right?
Yeah, I am. I haven't applied for the first class yet, but I got my third class special issuance. So once I get all my paperwork, I'll be applying for it too.
Good. All right. Well, I hope it picks up. And I have to admit, I'm assuming most bureaucratic things are going to grind to a halt for a while.
Yeah. What happened with the FAA, and the reason for their current sidebarring of that, is that they got retasked with cabin air quality and commercial airliners. And so they have to obviously concentrate on that first, which is probably going to be another 3 weeks, but then they're going to move on from there. But in the meantime, the rest of the flying and training and all that kind of stuff is going well on my end. But and on that note, just the CGM, aspect of things, and people that are interested in, really any aviation related field, that's a massive component, and understanding how to use that correctly has been absolutely crucial.
Are you worried at all that air travel is going to change after all this? Or do you think we'll get back to where we were?
I mean, I was flying as, professionally through, 9/11 and thereafter, and I've seen multiple rounds of issues, nothing quite of this magnitude, but I feel like it will. I think it's going to be a matter of just how long it takes folks to become, I guess, comfortable again, being in close quarters. But I think it'll come back. But I think there's also a lot of innovation that's occurred because of this situation with what we're doing, teleconferencing, business travel, and that kind of stuff. So I think that'll have some degree of effect on market share and so on.
I think even if this didn't happen, the next generation of business was going to be done like this. It's just people get to an age where they're like, this is, I don't want this. It's different. And now they're being forced to use it. And it's not bad. It works pretty well. And I don't see the problem with it. What we might really get out of this is decent internet in America eventually, which would be lovely. Because, there are other countries that just, Japan, for one, has internet that, makes this look like we're talking through 2 tin cans and a string, for example. So some things will get better from it. The numbers are, I think, the way we kind of expected them to keep growing. And but it's I think if you avoid the day-to-day news where they tell you like this many people were diagnosed, this many people passed away, like that, if you can avoid that and look at the bigger picture, I think you're all right. But for the moment, it's, I don't know. My wife texting me that she's got a 99-degree fever is it does not feel like good news. So and Kelly's been sick for weeks. We've been in the house for weeks. She hasn't been outside. Obviously she's sick. I can't imagine how she'd be sick with corona. But now you worry about it until you figure something else out. And she's not in a category that anybody's going to see. And I don't want to take her to a hospital, unless you would absolutely have to. They're not going to do anything for you. So I think you're at a situation where you wait to see if you can breathe, you're okay. And if you can't breathe, then you end up at a hospital. But this is, New York, New Jersey. It's really prevalent here right now. So we're right in the middle of it. Is there anybody in the middle of the country that feels like it's coming, but it's not there yet?
I'm in Denver. I don't know where other posts are. So,
Brittany?
Minnesota. We're in Wisconsin, and I think we had 1,500 cases yesterday, but they're laying nurses off right now, like getting them rested up for when it hits.
Oh, okay. So they're planning ahead for it at least.
Yeah, like the hospitals are basically closed down, but yeah, they're basically telling nurses to go home and rest up because at some point here soon you're not going to be able to leave.
Yeah, New York's going to be the ghost of Christmas future for you. You're going to be able to look back and say that's what's eventually going to happen here.
Yeah.
I miss sports a little bit. I'm not going to lie. I can't believe baseball season didn't happen and doesn't look like it's going to. And you start wondering, like, when's the next time you're going to be comfortable with just you and 80,000 people watching something?
Yeah.
Probably not for a little bit.
Scott, I have a question.
Leah, I saw you laughing. Did I say something stupid?
Yeah. I don't know. Everything's pretty funny. So about bumping and nudging, what's the difference between that and stacking insulin?
I think in really simple terms, if you don't need it, you're stacking it. And if you need it, you're using it.
Because like, let's say I'm 130 diagonal arrow up. So then I give a little bit and then it keeps climbing. So then I give it a little bit and then it crashes down. So how is that not stacking?
So that is, but if you did more sooner, it might not be.
Meaning what?
Meaning, well, we have to give it some context. So let's say what happens to you. You're eating a meal and how far in do you end up 130 diagonal up?
After, like maybe a half hour after eating.
A half an hour. And then you put a little more in, and how long do you wait till you do it again?
I don't give it like a time, more just when I see the number got higher.
The number freaks you out. And so it keeps climbing. You're like, now more and more. So what ends up happening is that you're putting in little bits and you're spreading it out. And at some point, you've got all this insulin in here. Your body starts to digest that food. and then it's not there to resist the insulin anymore, and then you're crashing down. So if you take a percentage of that insulin that you were bumping with and put it back into the original bolus, obviously it wouldn't have happened to begin with. But there's other ways to kind of avoid, when you find you need to bump, you can hit it a little bit, and then the next time maybe try a temp basal increase, because at least you can stop that. You can cut it off.
Yeah, that's usually what I do.
And get away with it. There's also a world where you hit that 130 and it becomes 160, and all of a sudden you see like, oh hell, like here it comes. Do you know what I mean? And if it's not falling like this, if it's coming down like this, you can cut your basal completely off for like a half an hour to hopefully create sort of a black hole in the future where no insulin exists as basal. So you'll fall, and because you're not really, it's a misnomer that you're falling, right? You're actually being pulled down, right? So there's like the insulin's pulling you down. You're not in a free fall. You're being driven down by the insulin. And so it's pulling you. And if you're lucky, when you hit the void, there won't be anything there to pull you, and that'll create a landing.
Okay.
Right?
Thanks.
So you're welcome. But keep at it. It sounds like you're doing good. And don't be afraid to bump back with juice if you're falling too. And then go back later and look at what you did and say, oh, if I would have just made this a little sooner or a little less. And also have reasonable expectations. If you miss on your bolus, you're not going to get a flat line. Like, right? So now you're doing this. You can't get so aggressive that you're like, I need it to come back down right away, because the insulin just doesn't work that way.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what's happening a
That
little
was
bit?
the way I ever did it.
Yeah, I never get a flat line after eating. It always goes, even if it doesn't go above 130, it always goes like.
Just a little bit of a lump like that?
Yeah.
Well, so does it go up and come down sometimes and not get low?
Sometimes, yeah.
That could be pre-bolus then.
Like I should move it up earlier?
Oh, yeah. How long? If it just goes like this and comes right back down and doesn't get low, then a little more pre-bolus would take this and make it more like this.
Yeah, usually I wait around like 20 minutes.
Okay. Well, and it also, pre-bolusing depends on, a million things, a million variables that we can't cover here. But, you could be dehydrated. You could have come out of another higher carb meal before that. You could have your period. You could like blah, 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 blah. So,
right.
If you sharp up is usually pre-bolus. Like gentle up is, that's unfair. Sharp up could be pre-bolus and amount, right? But if you pre-bolus and then shoot up, that's amount, right?
So just more insulin?
Yeah, right. So if you hold for a second, then jump up, your pre-bolus might have been okay, but your amount might have been wrong. So I can't go through every one of the things, but if you start paying attention to the sharpness of the line and how much insulin you did, you should be able to make a little adjustments off it to make it better.
Okay, thank you.
Unless Brooklyn burns, and then who cares? So, that's all. I feel like I saw somebody else waving their hand, but now I'm not sure.
Hey, Scott, can I ask a question?
Sure. I just don't know which one you are.
It's Renee.
Hey, Renee. How are you?
I'm good. So kind of to piggyback off what she was saying about bumping and nudging, I sometimes have the issue where, and I don't know if I should be using this or not, but if I'm high after a meal and I want to give myself a little bit more, I always go through what the bolus calculator says. Yeah. And if it says 0, should I still be giving myself a little bit more?
So the bolus calculator is set up. The bolus calculator is making decisions based on settings in your pump that are very static and probably not always right.
Okay.
So, so if the pump believes that insulin lasts in you for 4 hours, okay, and it's only been 2 hours in, it's going to tell you don't need insulin. But if you're looking and common sense says, no, I obviously need insulin, then you need insulin. And so the reasoning could be 4 hours is wrong as far as how long insulin lasts in you, or you ate a food that's just going to impact differently. Do you see how like that insulin on board is very I don't pay when Arden was just using an insulin pump, I never paid attention to the insulin on board. Like I know people, it makes them comfortable. Like it makes you feel like your decisions are okay. Like I don't need more insulin. The thing says I still have some. But I mean, if you still have some and your blood sugar is shooting up, it ain't enough. Because if it was, your blood sugar wouldn't be going up.
Okay.
And so I don't for instance, in a situation like that where it says, hey, you don't need any insulin, if your insulin action time was set at 5 hours and you went in there and changed it to 2 hours, it would all of a sudden tell you needed insulin.
Okay.
You understand? You see what I'm saying?
I do. It's set at 3 hours, and it usually typically works pretty good. But I don't know if it's my pre-bolus has been off lately. I've been trying to be a little bit more cognizant of that now that I'm home. But I just didn't know if I'm stacking, if I give myself a little bit more, or I should just,
Well, like everything else with the insulin on board, when it's working, trust it. And, and when it's not, then let your common sense sort of override it then, I think.
I needed someone
because you might be set at a pretty good thing. Like to John's point earlier, for a reasonably balanced meal, like, it's probably fine. But all of a sudden, if you add, grease or cheese or something like that, then that might throw that off. In that scenario, that meal's insulin action time is shorter than the other meals. So the setting is just it's an average. It's not always going to be right. None of your settings are always going to be right. 5 carbs of watermelon and 5 carbs of rice need different amounts of insulin, but they both say 5 next to them.
Okay.
So, both of those foods stay in your system longer. They impact you longer. They hit you harder up front or, longer over the future. There's all different ways the food hits you, but yet your pump says 5 carbs, it's this much insulin.
Okay. Thank you.
Just think about what else could have been wrong, right? Same exercise you can go through with or without loop. Like you probably just didn't put enough carbs in. So if you entered more carbs in your pump, it would offer a bolus too. So if you put in 25 carbs for your meal and it was really 30, then don't worry about the insulin on board or what your pump tells you. You probably needed 5 more carbs worth of insulin earlier. And so that's why you're giving yourself more insulin. So if you can think about why you're giving yourself more insulin, that's cool, but it just gives you more reason not to necessarily trust your technology because it's kind of stupid.
To Kenny's point, there's sometimes in loop where I look and I think I need Arden to have 2 more units of insulin, and I'll go back to the last food I gave her if it's if it's still active in her, and I just go, all right, I said it was 40, but let's make it 50.
Or stretch the absorption time out because
or change, or I tell it, oh no, it's going to stay in her longer than I thought, and then all of a sudden it says, oh well, in that case, more insulin. It's just so your initial input, if it isn't 100% right, and your pre-bolus isn't good, then what happens next isn't going to be what you're hoping for. But it doesn't mean it's all lost. You know what I mean? Like so imagine you have this thing that we know for certain is 40 carbs. Like, let's just say we know, but you for some reason believe it's 30 carbs. And you say this is 30 carbs, but it hits you like 40 carbs. Well, then it's not stacking if you put in insulin for not just 10 more carbs probably, but now also to address the higher blood sugar you have.
Right.
So so say you use 3 units for 40 carbs, but you thought it was 30 carbs. So you're 1 per 10 for this example. And now you're 180 and you're going up. 1 more unit's not going to be enough at this point. That 1 unit would have been good over here as a pre-bolus, but now you're in a new situation. You are 10 carbs worth of insulin behind, and 85 points and momentum going up behind. So now you need to cover the carbs you missed, you need to cover the number, and you need to stop the arrow. So now that could end up being, a unit and a half or 2 units, depending on you and, a bunch of other factors I can't make up for this scenario. But does that make sense in general?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You and thanks, Kenny. Cool. Somebody's testing their blood sugar. Anybody want to share their blood sugar test after they did it?
Oh, I was giving myself insulin.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks.
I was just doing a temp basal because I'm always with the temp basal.
If you don't know Blue is one of the people. There are a handful of people who talk to me through different messaging apps as if we're listening to the podcast together.
Right.
and Blue is one of them. And so, and sometimes she'll hit me at points in the night where I'm like, I have nothing but time here. And I'm like, hi, how are you?
Right. Exactly. I'm listening. I'm like, yeah, because I need to chime in here before I forget because that's really bugging me.
Yeah. It's like we're watching together sometimes.
Yeah.
But
Party.
What's that?
Little watching party.
Yeah, but just her and I. And I've already, by the way, had the conversation, edited it, put it together, put it up online, made sure. This is my 5th time. And so sometimes, you're talking to me about something that I physically did 6 months ago. And sometimes I'm just like,
true.
I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Somebody said something to me the other day about that, about like blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I don't remember. Like those episodes when they go up live, they're like as much of a surprise to me sometimes as they are to anybody else. Sometimes I listen, I'm like, oh, this is good. But I don't remember it at all, which is really strange. Is everybody...
Has Arden tried any new sites?
She's using, her arms now a lot more.
Is she?
So she used
Has
to
she ever
just
tried
do
here?
belly. No, she ain't gonna do that.
Yes.
No.
You don't sleep on if you're not a back sleeper, it's perfect.
Yeah, she's if you listen to the podcast, I was able to trick her into using her arms because she had to have a cyst removed, so she was having surgery. So I kind of set her up in the doctor's office where the doctor asked her to put her pump on her arm.
Nice.
And I was just playing some mind games and just doing some puppeteering because I couldn't get her to do it on her arms. And after that, while she was recuperating, I was like, no, we have to keep going on the arms. We have to keep going. And the other day I was like, where do you want to put your pod? She's like, let's put it on my arm. And I was like, I won.
Nice.
I can never let her know. Yeah. Like she'll listen back to the podcast when she's 30 and be like, that son of a bitch.
I just be careful not to put it like directly on the side because going through doorways and stuff.
Yeah.
And
you don't want it to be like.
So I usually do like the front or the back. Yeah. I ripped a few off doing on the side, so maybe she doesn't walk through the house like a bull. I don't know.
Yeah, it's difficult to get her to change some things, like things that with her personality you would never think that was going to be the sticking point.
Wow.
Like she agreed to come on the podcast and like so we could talk, and now the other day she's like, I don't want to do it again. So I'm not going to push her to do it, but she'll do it. If we sat and did it, she's got whatever part of me likes doing this. She has that too. She'd have to get doing it first.
Yeah.
So she told me the other day, I'm going to try more new things. I felt like I was like talking to a 32-year-old divorced woman who just read Cosmopolitan. She was like, I should try more new things. And I'm like, okay. And and she's like, so she wants to buy a sewing machine. She wants to learn how to sew.
Yes.
Right. And so I was like, all right, well, we'll do that then. And I'm gonna take that phrase. I need to try more like new things. And in a couple of days, I'm totally gonna screw her with it, with telling her she should try the podcast.
You know you are. Yep.
But I was excited. I never, when I was 15, I never had thoughts like I should expand myself. So it was pretty cool actually. Hi Gina, you're back. How are you?
I just wanted to know if anybody has had any problems, because I'm looking forward to maybe getting that new pump and the CGM next month.
Yeah.
I just wondered with all the stuff that's going on, if they've had any problems with either getting it or getting the training. Because like when I got the pump I have now, the nurse came to the house and trained me here at the house. But I mean, I wouldn't expect that to happen.
I'm seeing people talking about that they're not getting the kind of help that they needed. And to be perfectly honest with you, it's not difficult. There are plenty of YouTube videos where people walk through it. You could come here and ask or anything like that. I think you'd be okay.
I just didn't know if anybody had any experience with that or not. If I don't think it would make a difference, but you never know. I mean, insurance will say, well, we don't have somebody to train you, so we're not going to let you have it right now.
No, they'll give it to you. There's the gray area in there. You'll have it, and then somebody will say, you have to wait to be trained, and then you have to have it in your heart to go, or maybe I don't. And,
exactly.
And you're on your way. I have a question.
YouTube videos, they're fantastic.
Right. Okay.
I have to ask, hold on one second. Presley, are you in court? There's like this dark wood. It makes it feel like you're...
It's an armoire.
Oh, okay. All right. Like I thought you were in it feels like you're in court, like on like LA Law or something like that. Like it just looks really pretty behind you. That's all I wanted to know.
She just needs the flag.
She needs a flag? Well, she's got a purple thing over there. So there's
I see it. That's what, yeah.
All right. I didn't mean to bother you. I just needed to know that. Thank you. All right. Anybody else? How we doing?
I have a question for you real quick.
Hi, Ash. Ash or Ashley? Aish? Hold on. She's on mute. Go again. Yeah. What's your name?
Aisha.
Aisha, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Nice to meet you.
You too.
Kind of leading on from the, nudging question. I don't know if I'm going to be able to phrase this very well. So it's my 3-year-old. And what I find is I can see that it's creeping up, and I try to catch it. But I wonder if I'm having, essentially what I've been trying to do is put in an amount of insulin that I know I can cover if it goes wrong. But I'm finding that it doesn't work, and then I add more and more, and it just takes ages for it to come down.
Yeah.
So I just feel like I'm not learning what to do.
At night or during the day?
What's that, Kenny?
At night or during the day?
During the day. So like with a meal, for example, with lunch today, I obviously got it wrong. And he started going up, and I was trying to prevent the rise, and then it just went up and stayed there for ages, and it took me hours. And so even though I tried to put that insulin in, it didn't seem to do anything. And like I said, I don't have a formula for figuring out how much. I don't know how to get there. I don't even know if I'm asking this question very well.
No. Can I let me say something first, and hopefully this will. I haven't said this on the podcast yet, but I will at some point. When I told people to bump and nudge, I didn't think it was going to become a management idea. I just was like, hey, don't let a blood sugar go up. Bump it back down. I wanted to give you the idea that you shouldn't sit and stare at it. But a lot of you guys, and it's kind of cool, have turned it into a thing that I didn't expect necessarily. Like, I try really hard not to do that. So when I do it, I try to learn from it. Like, it's more to me, it's not abiding by a high blood sugar and then looking at the insulin that I put in to stop it, looking at what meal it was, a little bit about what the scenario was, and then getting that insulin. Like, bumping and nudging, if you're bumping because of highs, in my mind, should make you more aggressive about meal insulin then. Like, that's, to me, it's a teaching tool about meal insulin. But sometimes I get it. Like, people get caught in, these are my settings. They're right. So, I must have done something wrong, and that's why it's going up. I'll just bump it back down. But I think when you find yourself bumping and nudging too much, there's something wrong at the start. It's not just the bad luck of diabetes. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. It does. And I don't know if this is just his age but I feel like his settings are changing every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I'll get on top of it, and everything's fine, and we have lovely days, and it all looks good, and it all goes well. He more or less eats the same thing. Like, he's, it's just, and so, and then it just changes, and everything changes.
How long has he had type 1?
It's been 1 year now.
A year. And how much is he little, right?
Yeah, he's small. He's 3 and 3 months.
I hate this answer, but that's what happens. It just
So I sort of do I just accept it and go with it and say okay, this, for whatever reason, do I just go with it and obviously just do my best as I am? Or is there, because I beat myself up about it when it does go wrong, because I spend the whole day then trying to bring him back, and he wants snacks, or he wants this, that, and I'm just trying to get on top of it and not keep it high. But yeah,
you have that look on your face. If I froze this and just said, let's pick the person who has a little kid with type 1, you've got that far away, oh shit look on your face right now. So I totally get that, right? But I think try to learn from what's happening and say to yourself, okay, right now, this ratio I'm using isn't enough. And if 5 days from now, it all of a sudden is too much, just go, okay, and go back to it again. Don't fight it. Like, just, you got to roll with it. It really is. It's like being on, I need a metaphor. What sporting thing do you have to go with? Surfing? Is there anything? I've never surfed. Look at me. I've never been on a surf. I hate the idea of the ocean even. But yeah, you've just got to stay loose. It's like riding a bull. If you firm up riding a bull, you're going to break your neck and get thrown off. You just gotta, hard deal.
Yeah, the only thing I find I'm changing is his basal. His ratios seem to I haven't changed those. The ones that seem to make a difference is the basal. Mm-hmm. But as I said, it almost seems like every 2 weeks, and then we'll have 2-3 days where I'm like, yeah, I got this, it's all good, and then it just changes again.
So let me say this: is Kenny? Kenny, are you still here? I can't see you. He might be gone.
I think he left.
All right. So, I mean, if you saw how an algorithm gives and takes away basal insulin, differently this hour, the next hour, today to tomorrow, you would just say to yourself, that's how this is. Like, it really is how it is. We the disservice that we're all, it's not a disservice because it's at least a good place to start. But the disservice is being told, like, these are your settings are going to work. You know, that's not always going to be true. And to watch an algorithm, no lie, like push your basal way up and take it away and give it back. And like 5 minutes later, it's gone again. And for 2 hours, it's up. That made me realize this is not ever something you're going to pin down doing statically. It just isn't. So roll with it, chill out a little, and cut yourself a break is probably the best thing you could do, because you're trying to stop the ocean, you know, by putting your hands up, and that's not going to work. The best thing you can do is just do it. I mean, I think one of the things I've learned managing a person with diabetes, maybe more than anything else, is just the ability to let it go. Like, never look back. Never, ever, ever look back. Just say to yourself, that guy was a scumbag, but I was 18 and it made sense at the time, and just keep going. Do you know what I mean? Like you just don't look back. Because if you look back, you're going to be like, oh, what did I do? That's really wrong. Your hindsight is what's making you feel bad. But that's good news too, because you're learning more. So your hindsight's smarter than you in the moment, which is nice. When you start looking back and think you're doing great, that's when you'll know you stop learning anything. So the key is to not feel bad about it. Now, that's for some people more easier than others. Like, are you anxious normally? Or is this like a mom thing? Do you feel like you're killing your kid? Is that the thing?
I don't know. I guess it's been a rough year. It's like,
hell yeah, it has. Oh, it's going to get way worse before it gets better. Just like strap in a little bit.
Everyone's giving me this false hope that by age 6 it will get better, but I'm not sure if I believe that. But
you know when it's going to get better? I really believe this. It's going to get better when you learn how to use insulin and you can apply it to the situations you're in. That's it, right? Because the situations are going to change, but your knowledge will always be rock solid. Like, you could make my kid's blood sugar 300 right now. I could get it down. You could make it 50 right now. I can fix it without making it high. There's almost nothing you could do with somebody with diabetes that I wouldn't know immediately what to do. And you're all going to be at that spot at some point. Like, seriously, like, I'm like, look at me. There's nothing special about me. Okay. Like, I don't know something you don't know. I didn't go to more college than you went to. I didn't even go to college. That you listen to a podcast from a guy who barely got through high school. You all should be ashamed of yourselves. Okay. And so like, the point is that one day you'll just have the knowledge. You know what I mean? Like, you know how when you walk up to a closed door, your hand reaches out and opens it. You don't go, I need to open the door now so I can go out. You'll hit that with diabetes at some point if you keep watching what's happening, and instead of beating the hell out of yourself when it doesn't go the way you want, stepping back and saying, this is an experience I can learn from, and just take it as a learning experience and move forward. I just slipped into me on stage just now. I don't know if any of you saw it or not. Like, there's pre-wired things that I say in my head, and I access 2 of the sentences and just let them out. But seriously, like, no joke. You have to, every one of these experiences that you spend time beating yourself up about, and therefore stop paying attention to the lessons coming from them, you're killing yourself, because you're going to have the experience again to learn from it. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I feel terrible that all of us are impacted by diabetes in one way or the other, but you are, and you got to let that go, and then get into the part where you'll just go, 150 and you'd like to eat now. I'm going to over bolus this, and you can start eating in 10 minutes. Like that.
Can I make a request about, we don't use those numbers. We use the 7, 8. I don't know if you can I don't know. Because when I listen to you, I have to keep one of those conversion charts up, because I don't understand the
I apologize. There are people who have asked me to make cards. I sometimes think that people believe that I'm a larger entity than I actually am. Like, for all of you who are like, make me a t-shirt, that ruined my life, just so you know. Like, it's still killing me. There's taxes, and it's horrible, and I don't make any money. It's just such a waste of my time. But I like that you're wearing the shirts. That's like, I enjoy mine, which ended up being free because one of you bought one, so thank you. But it just really, you're gonna have to watch for the graph. I do know Justin. Is Justin still here? Justin's Canadian. Do you hear it now, Justin? Like, do you hear 10 and know 150 or whatever? Like, can you do the conversions in your head?
Well, I'm not Canadian.
Wait, oh, you're just in Canada.
No. I'm in Minnesota.
Dude, that's Canada. Stop it. Justin lives in Canada. He doesn't even realize it. Or why? That's embarrassing, man. Let it go. All right. That's Minnesota. That's not America. Stop it. Don't you listen to like elite liberals? New York, LA, the rest of you. You know
and Minnesota's right number 3 there for in the liberal.
Anywhere that cold's not a real place, but I hear what you're saying. That's all.
Close to the border to Canada and Minnesota.
Are you? Melissa, you're there too?
Minnesota's close to the Canada border.
See, you can hear her sticking up for it, and you hear the Oda in her voice when she's talking right there. She just said it. So my brother's in Wisconsin, by the way. I mock him unmercifully about it. Anytime something goes wrong in his life, I was like, you know how you could fix this? Move. Although the one thing, he loves it there. But the one thing he said he still can't get past, he's like, if you said something bad about the Packers outside, someone would shoot you. He's like, that's the only thing I can't get over. Like, he's like, it's really, you have to be careful. I was like, gotcha.
Because it's all they've got.
Well, because it's so cold. I'm going to have him come on here one time and tell you a story about a guy he worked with ending up in jail after robbing a place and driving away in a Winnebago that didn't have a driver's seat. So they piled the beer up they stole to sit on it so they could drive the Winnebago. Absolutely true story from Wisconsin. And Brittany's like, I might know those people. Yeah,
I believe that.
I really hope I'm going to get up there. Hopefully this whole thing's not going to ruin public speaking. But it really, I think, is going to in the near future. I'm assuming some groups are going to want to start putting stuff like this together. We'll see what happens, I guess.
But yeah, I would love to have you come to Minnesota because I'm from Minnesota as well. So
I appreciate. I have a nice following there. I can see the maps. I know where you guys all like live. Not you personally, but I know where like people listen in stronger concentrations than other. The show is huge in California, like in a way that like I don't understand even. Like it's just disproportionately large in California. And there's some places like no one listens, and then there's some countries where I can't believe people listen, and they do, which is it's interesting too. Anyway, I'm gonna do this next week later at night, so that everybody's got a little bit of. There are people overseas who are like, "Hey, it's 6 o'clock in the morning at 3 p.m. for me."
Yeah.
So I think I'm gonna go to like I think I'm gonna go try like 7 o'clock Eastern time next week and see if that helps some people. Hopefully that won't throw you guys off too much.
I'm calling from the Middle East, by the way.
Where at?
Oh, wow.
Oman. So it's actually just gone midnight here.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you. That's why you look tired, because you're actually tired. Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Everybody right now is like, where did I think her accent was from?
Yeah.
No, I'm British living in the Middle East.
Oh, yeah. So. Well, that's what I just figured you were in England when you started speaking, but I was like,
no.
What's up?
So next week it'll be 4 a.m. for her.
All right.
Yeah. Possibly we'll be up with the 3-year-old. So
yeah, she'll just drop in with some like low blood sugar and be like, "Hi, how are you?" Lou, are you waving at me or killing a bug? What would just happen there?
No, my husband's walking in the room, so I was going to try to mute it.
Is he going to say something horrible? Is he going to curse? What are you worried about?
Nothing. He's just.
Whenever I take a call for business and I'm in the car and my daughter's in the car, like it'll be like Sapna will call and I'll be like, Sapna, don't talk dirty like you usually do because my daughter's in here. And then the person on the other end just gets really uncomfortable. And then I never make it go away for them. I just leave it there. I don't go, I'm kidding. Nothing like that happens. I like to be in control of my conversations. So I like to put them make them nervous a little bit.
Hey, Scott, one thing I was going to mention when you were talking in the very beginning about like going to the grocery store and everything.
Yeah.
My husband and I are considering it. We say, well, let's go play Pac-Man. Because basically it's like all the other people are like the ghosts and we're trying to stay away from them. And then finding the things that you maybe need or like, whatever it may be, whether it's toilet paper or Clorox wipes or whatever. That's like the cherries and the little, the extra things that you would make points for. But it's funny how people make eye contact, but then they don't know what to do. It's very interesting.
I have found if I have spoken to somebody they immediately they're thinking what you're thinking. They're just like, wow, this is ridiculous. I can't believe this is happening. Like, no, but it's the looks that like everybody's just like, there's no chicken. Like all of a sudden everybody thinks chicken is the most important thing on the planet. There's beef, there's steaks, there's but no chicken. There just was none. And I was like, okay. Like how long do you think you could live in your house on the food you have? I think
I can make it through September.
How long?
I can do through September. I buy all the meats when they're on sale, and they got like 2 days to go, so both my freezers are full.
Okay.
I bake, so I've got flour. I make my own bread and pasta, and have a lot of canned goods. I usually stack up anyways, so
right.
I saw this coming in January, so I started getting a little bit more.
Doing that. I did it with diabetes supplies and liquids for some reason. Like I just kept every time I went out, I was like, and 2 cases of water. And I don't know why. I was just like that. And diabetes supplies I got out ahead of really quickly in January.
I've got 2 years of Dexcom G5 stuff.
Oh.
Everybody that switched to G6 and they said you need stuff.
Yeah. Mike's going to be the president of America 2 years from now. He's going to be the only one left.
Some of it's expired, but they still work for a week when they're expired.
He'll vote for himself, and that'll be it.
It's all fake news.
No, I think it's, I don't have, I don't have 5-gallon buckets full of gruel that will last, 25 years or something like that. But, I'm trying to, but I don't have I made fun of my wife when she said to get a freezer, like a deep chest freezer. Actually, what I said was it uses a lot of electricity. I'd rather die than spend that money on electricity. But that was my old understanding of the world. Now I would take the freezer.
Got to go solar.
Where are you at, Mike?
San Diego.
That's my dream to live there. That's my place. I want to live somewhere with.
I'm happy to pay it.
No, I don't want it to get too hot. I don't want there to be humidity, and I don't want it to snow. Is that the right place?
That's it. I wear shorts all year round. I hate long sleeve shorts.
See, that's what I want. That
We
right
have
there.
about 8 inches of snow in Oregon.
How
In
much?
Oregon.
Right now?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God! What do you just stay inside and stare out the window?
We were playing basketball.
Yeah, that's the other thing. My brother talks about driving in the snow like it's nothing. He has no issue with it at all because I think he's so accustomed to it. That's interesting. All right. Anybody else want to say anything? Are we going to wrap up for today? What do we got? Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I want to know what's going on with the lady in the bottom right-hand corner that it has a palm tree behind her and she looks like she's freezing.
I love that.
John, that's a Zoom background. You could have that too.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
But there's wind.
You can use GIFs so that it changes and stuff.
Yeah, you had to put that in yourself, right?
Me, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's a good answer. Laura, go ahead. Get your question in. What's up?
Yep. Well, I guess there's a couple things. So with Arden, are you able to get almost a straight line then? Because it's just like I can hardly ever do that.
Some days it's so easy I don't ever think about it. But those are like perfect storm days where, she's not premenstrual or postmenstrual or menstruating or exercising too much or, like it happens sometimes. Somebody's being.
Yeah, my son is talking in the background.
Okay. I felt like I was watching an episode of Dallas in the 80s. I wasn't sure what was happening. Okay. Yeah, I mean, sometimes, but the truth is, no, not most of the time. Her blood sugar is not always 85. I follow some really basic rules. I don't let highs last, right? I correct lows without making them high again. And I have an aggressive basal system that keeps her blood sugar at its core. What it wants is for her blood sugar to be about 80. Now, that doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes it does. Sometimes there's perfect storms and I hit meals exactly right and her blood sugar rides for days, like days at 80, 85. And then it'll just stop like that. And then all of a sudden we're going to have to correct meals more often. Sometimes it's sites, like some sites work better than others. You have better days. The second day of an Omnipod is the best. The first day you have to be more aggressive with insulin. The last 6 hours I have to be more aggressive with insulin. The other night, I said to her last night when we went to bed, we should have bailed on that pod 6 hours before we did.
Yep.
And because we didn't, her blood sugar was 170 when I could have had it at, where I needed it. And there was just meaningless, like for no reason, her blood sugar just went from 90 and it went like this, and then it leveled off at 170. And as soon as I saw it do that, and I bolused once and it didn't come back, I was like, it's the site. It's definitely the site. And then we didn't get to it quickly enough. And then it screwed me, because then we did it later at night, and then it kept me up later, because then I had to get it on, make sure it was working, get her back down again. And had I just done it sooner, I would have saved so many different problems. I think being proactive is a huge part of diabetes, and we don't talk about it enough. We always wait and hope. You know what I mean? Like, maybe it'll come down, and then it doesn't. You're like, well, maybe like 3 more hours, and we'll see what happens. And then before you know it, it's time to eat again, and now you've got a bad site or whatever your problem is. I think that's definitely part of it. You just have to be. You have to. You know, it's just such an art form more than a science, and everybody gets diagnosed and told it's a science and it's mathematical, and in my opinion it just isn't. It's about doing things at the right time. It's the difference between a 6'9" guy that can't play basketball and a 5'11" guy that can. Like, they just feel it in a different way, and so I think once you learn how to feel this, then you can react at the right times. It's as much about doing the right thing as it is about doing the right thing at the right time. Like I say all the time, like, you could make a bolus that's 100% correct and at the wrong time, and it won't matter. And you could make a good bolus at the wrong time. It's not going to work. You could make, a little sooner or a little later, makes all the difference in the world sometimes. So when I say to Arden, like, hey, we need to do this now, she's like, what's the rush? I'll tell her the rush is, if we wait 15 more minutes, you're going to lose 3 hours of your life tonight to messing with your blood sugar. This is when it's going to work, right here. If we don't do it right now, it's not going to matter. And I don't know how long it's going to take her to learn that, herself. Probably years, I would imagine.
You know what though? I have 2 girls. One's 37 and one's 15. And when I switched to the G6 last year, they each wore my G5,
right,
so that I could see what it did. And normal people don't have like a perfectly straight line. So I think a lot of diabetics are like, they strive for that straight, right, exactly.
Right.
And if I would see my daughter, like, I followed them, and if I would see my older daughter, she was working, and I would see it, like, one time went up to 170 something, and I said, what the hell did you just eat? And she's like, oh yeah, I had cereal or something like that.
Yeah.
The only thing is, the recovery time
It's so
very
quick. Right, because your 170 takes 3 hours to fight with. Their 170 drops and then stops, and that's it.
So a straight line is just not realistic.
Yeah, before all this happened, I was in talks with Dexcom to wear the Dexcom Pro, but all this has kind of slowed things down, because I thought seeing my own blood sugar would help. But I mean, to everybody, and Laura specifically, I said it a minute ago, but I'll say it again. I think if you listen to those pro tips, use those tools, and stay flexible, pre-bolus your meals, don't stare at high blood sugars, and don't overcorrect low blood sugars, you'll have an A1C in the 5s. I just think you will, because Arden's A1C is in the 5s without effort forever. And it's not like I'm not running around up her ass the whole time. It's not like that,
Are you sure?
And I really trust her. I'm sure she'd punch me at this point. She's pretty tall now. I think she could probably hurt me. And you might not want one in the 5s, but in the 6s, even, like, I don't think if you do those things, it's not hard. You know what I mean? But once you get out of rhythm and you start chasing, it's over then. You could chase for weeks and months. It's just, if you're roller coastering, you have to stop, get it down, get it flat, and start over. And that might happen to you a couple times a day, but don't keep chasing it. You'll never catch it.
Well, I find that, like, if I go, let's see, if I have a low, I don't need to have too many carbs to actually just pop me back up anyway.
Right. You can bump and nudge with lows and food too. So.
Yep. But the thing is, I'm not trying to take up too much time.
You're not.
But, okay.
Your question is probably everybody's question. Don't worry.
But I'm almost ready to celebrate my 2-year anniversary. And anyway, but last week, I just had my first cold. And anyway, it was just interesting to see how much my insulin had to increase. And then now I've been having to slowly decrease my basal, and I think my insulin to carb ratio has finally gotten back down. But the thing is, I've been finding out that my basal, I think, has increased a little bit in some areas.
It may stay increased for a while. Maybe you're having remnants of your cold you're not aware of. I think what you did is a perfect way to handle it. And trust me, that's going to come in handy again and again and again for years. Like just being flexible. And, I say this sometimes, and, it's probably oversimplified, but your body has needs for insulin. You need to meet them. And that's not just one need that you get to replicate day after day. It could be different for this afternoon than it is for the morning, and completely different tomorrow. But there's a need, and you meet it. That's your job, really. You know what I mean? And try not to make yourself crazy while you're doing it.
Well,
you know what? Go ahead.
Just like some mornings, I find that what I regularly eat, it's around 25 carbs. But then there's some times where it's just like, well, sometimes I get the stand on your feet type of issue, and then I have to give myself insulin right away, but the thing is, so it's just like, but sometimes the meal I eat is about 25 carbs and I can eat that, but then I have to give myself a little bit of more insulin just for that day, because who knows what what my body is doing.
Trust what you're seeing. Seriously, trust what you're seeing, apply what you're seeing with common sense, and meet the needs of the insulin. I think you'll do well.
Yeah. But
hey, I got to wrap up in a minute. Who else is anybody else?
Okay.
We're good?
Just one thing I was going to say to Gina, what she said earlier. I think what she was looking for, did she ask about two different basals, like a work one and is that what she was looking for? A work basal and a home?
Well, the problem is because my work is it's physically active. I do when I'm busy working and walking and so forth. But it's erratic as far as my schedule goes. That's the thing. Okay. So I can do the temp basal, but the problem again is remembering to do that. It's just trying to do all this stuff manually because of my circumstances, because of my schedule variations and my sleep schedule. I mean, like I said, today I went to bed at 6:30 this morning, and some days I go to bed. No, generally I don't go to bed till about 2:00 in the morning, but some days I don't get up until I might not wake up until 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Some days I get up at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
But everything is it's just.
But Gina, that's what, if you're listening to what everybody's saying, that's what we're saying, is that there's a bunch of variables and you have to stay flexible and meet the needs of the time. And you need a CGM as much as anybody I've ever met. So
exactly. Yeah. I agree 100%. Yeah. When I got the pump, the recommendation was on a friend of mine who's younger than me, but he said he had a pump and he's like, with your work schedule, he's like, you would benefit so much from having a pump. And I was basically at the point of coming apart because of it. And I got on a pump and it changed everything. Good. But now
now you want to change the rest.
Now we're thanks for the podcast.
All right, listen, let's leave it here. I'm dying to know what Mallory's cooking, but I don't have time to find out. And it's like in a little metal bowl. Sometimes I think she's making like a spell, and she's gonna all right, I'm gonna ask real quick, Mallory, what are you making?
I'm making a cheesecake.
Oh, okay.
Ooh.
Well, good luck with it.
Delicious.
Sometimes she's doing this, and I was like, what is she doing down there? And that was my favorite thing that happened today, except that Alan was driving at one point, which I thought was pretty cool. So, and now is at home in a Barco Lounger, it appears. Justin, your blood sugar is 110. Justin has real quick before we go, how is all this impacting you? Justin does pop-up restaurants, and he'll be on the podcast soon. Like, don't you explain to people, like, you put on like a meal just for like a small group of people in different locations.
Yeah. So basically I'm a chef. For the last 2 years, me and my girlfriend, we do like 5+ courses for like 8 people at a time. And it's all super creative. Like, I try to do things that like people in Minneapolis think we have a great restaurant scene, but I try to push the boundaries on that even a little bit. So we've actually completely pivoted to now we're delivering three dinners a week, appetizer, entree, dessert to people.
That's excellent.
So we did our first one last weekend, and we're getting ready to do. We'll do the deliveries on Mondays. So that's what we're doing now.
I wish you luck. You were one of the people I thought of when all this happened. So good luck with it.
Yeah, dinner parties are out as of right now.
All right, guys. Should I do this again next week?
Yeah.
Sure.
All right, cool. All right, I got to roll. Everybody have a great night. Stay
Okay.
outside. Cover your mouth.
You too.
Bye.
Thanks, Scott.
See you guys.
Bye.
The Juicebox podcast is available everywhere that podcasts are. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, anywhere you can think of. And if you don't have one of those free apps, check it out at juiceboxpodcast.com. It's even available on Google Play, Google Podcasts. It's there for everybody. It is 100% free. There are over 300 episodes. The podcast has 1.6 million downloads and counting, and has been here and available to you for over 5 years. I hope you enjoyed this and that you'll check out the show.